All right, welcome to The Explainer. We've got to jump right into one of the most explosive headlines to hit the sports and business worlds in recent memory. If you've glanced at the news lately, you've definitely seen it. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos buying into Liverpool Football Club. I mean, it's the kind of headline that just sends absolute shockwaves through the fan base, right? But as we all know, headlines rarely tell the whole story. So today, we're cutting through the noise. We're going to look strictly at the facts, break down the terms of this massive agreement, and separate those soaring public expectations from the grounded reality.
Okay, let's dive into this. 30%. That number is the absolute anchor of this breaking news story. Liverpool's current owners have agreed to sell roughly a third of the club to 1892 Holdings, a consortium that prominently features Jeff Bezos. Just pause and think about the massive scale of that for a second. We're talking about a 30% stake in one of the most historic, valuable football clubs on the planet. But what does that specific slice actually mean for the power dynamics over at Anfield?
Well, here is our roadmap to figure that out. 1. The $7 billion deal. 2. Who is actually in charge? 3. A full takeover down the line. And 4. The impact on transfers.
Section 1. The $7 billion deal.
You literally cannot talk about this transaction without pausing to appreciate the eye-watering numbers involved here. $7 billion. Initial reports kind of bounce back and forth between dollars and pounds in the media frenzy, but the consensus valuation sits right at that staggering $7 billion mark. But here is a super fascinating piece of context directly from the sources. Liverpool was not seeking this investment because they needed the money. The club isn't in financial trouble at all. Instead, this is all about strategic opportunities. They wanted to bring in a small, aligned group of highly accomplished partners to increase stability and really turbocharge their revenue streams. So this wasn't some desperate cash grab. It was a highly calculated business expansion.
And that brings us to how the ownership is actually structured now. 1892 Holdings gets that 30% slice, sure, but the remaining 70% still firmly belongs to Fenway Sports Group, or FSG. This is absolutely crucial to understand. This is a minority investment in a long-term partnership. FSG retains the vast majority of ownership and, frankly, complete operational control of the club. The overarching leadership, it's still in the exact same hands.
Section 2. Who is actually in charge? And this brilliantly illustrates the whole expectation versus reality of it all. I mean, if one of the richest men in the world is involved, you'd naturally think he's going to be the one calling the shots, right? But there's a huge difference between public perception and actual boardroom operations. Take Jeff Bezos. Yes, he's a massive part of the consortium, and he brings undeniable business acumen. But officially, he's strictly an investor. He's absolutely not going to be sitting on the Liverpool board. Now, Amit Bhatia, on the other hand, he is the one to watch. He led these negotiations, made a massive impression on FSG, and he is the one stepping up as a hands-on operator. He's officially joining the board as Liverpool's new vice chairman. He's the guy FSG is really dealing with.
So what does this actually mean for the daily running of the club on, say, a random Tuesday afternoon? Put simply, nothing. There is zero change to the day-to-day operations or leadership under FSG. They wanted to preserve their existing operating approach. You're adding some high-caliber partners to the mix to boost revenue, for sure, but you are not fundamentally changing the machinery of how Liverpool FC operates.
Moving on to Section 3. A full takeover down the line?
So if they're just minority partners today, what exactly happens tomorrow? There's been intense speculation, especially out of America, that in 12 months' time, if certain parameters are met, this could theoretically trigger a full takeover by the Bezos-backed group. And the truth is, the transaction documents do provide flexibility for predetermined paths in the future. Honestly, that's pretty standard for a strategic investment of this massive scale. The paperwork absolutely has mechanisms built in that outline what a transition of power could look like.
But before we all get carried away, FSG directly addressed this speculation. They briefed that just because future paths are written into a contract, it does not mean they are guaranteed to follow them. They are stressing heavily that this is strictly a minority investment right now. I love this direct quote from their briefing. Any other characterization of that is inaccurate. They are firmly grounding the hype and telling everyone loud and clear to calm down and not get ahead of themselves.
All right, Section 4. Impact on the transfers.
This is the so what for the fans. We've talked corporate finance and boardrooms, but if you're a supporter, you want to know what this means for the squad out on the pitch. It's the burning question whenever billionaires get involved. Will this mean better players? The squad looks a little light right now, so naturally everyone is thinking, okay, how much cash are we dropping in the transfer window now that Jeff Bezos is here?
Well, we gotta shatter an illusion right now. The whole idea of an Amazon Anfield with unlimited spending, it is a complete myth.
Gone are the days of a surprise takeover resulting in a blank check, like when Man City was bought and they instantly snapped up Robinho out of nowhere. Yeah, actually, scratch that entirely. That is just not how modern football finance works anymore.
Let's break down the actual reality on the ground. First, we're being told this deal has absolutely zero impact on Liverpool's approach to the current window. There's no new, separate transfer budget, none. Second, all the transfer decisions and budget setting will still be completely led by the existing sporting operations team. And third, everything is strictly governed by their current financial sustainability models. The philosophy hasn't changed one bit.
So, the crucial point here is financial fair play. Even with an incredibly wealthy consortium backing you, clubs simply cannot buy their way to the top overnight. There are strict rules governing how much you can spend to ensure clubs stay sustainable. Liverpool is absolutely forced to work within these parameters, which means they can't just open up a bottomless checkbook, no matter who holds 30% of the shares.
To put this into perspective, just look at a real-world case today happening right now. £145 million. That is the massive asking price PSG has reportedly slapped on Bradley Barcola, a player Liverpool really wants. That number perfectly illustrates the exact financial hurdles the club is dealing with in today's market.
And despite this huge influx of billionaire partners, Liverpool flat out refuses to meet that $145 million valuation. They have their own strict valuation for the player, and they aren't budging. Now, Barcola reportedly wants a Premier League move, which definitely adds some spice to it. Will he agitate for a transfer? Maybe. But the reality is, a deal only happens for Liverpool or for Arsenal, who are also sniffing around, if PSG lowers that asking price. Liverpool is sticking to their guns. They are not just throwing new consortium money at the transfer market.
Which brings us to our final thought. We know the immediate reality, right? FSG is in charge, there's no magical new transfer war chest, and the day-to-day philosophy is exactly the same. But remember those transaction documents with the built-in flexibility? I want to leave you with this to ponder. What will actually happen in 12 months? Will this consortium pull the trigger on a path to full ownership, or will FSG remain the ultimate power at Anfield for years to come? The foundation of one of football's biggest institutions just shifted, and the long game is really only just beginning. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes peeled because this story is far from over.